So last week we talked about introducing two goals for Terry. The first one was setting up a structure in his home by using a visual schedule. And the second goal that we're going to work on, and we're going to talk about that today, is setting up a communication system that works for Terry. But before we actually talk about the specifics of Terry's communication devices, I wanted to give a little bit of background information on communication in general and on how we learn communication. So the way that we naturally learn communication is through modeling. Typical children learn by listening to their parents communicate. So this chart shows the number of words that children are exposed to at certain ages and how much they're able to produce later on. So children who are talked to more often are able to produce more words. If you're trying to learn a foreign language, the easiest way for you to do it would be to go to the country and be immersed in it, or to be involved in some sort of school or community that only speaks that language. So when you are immersed in a language, you learn it much faster. Unfortunately, when it comes to augmentative communication, we don't tend to teach it in a way that kids naturally learn language. So when we learn spoken language, we learn it because people are modeling spoken language. But when we're trying to teach augmentative communication, at least this is what I've seen in a number of settings, we speak to the students and then we expect them to do the hard part by putting it all together. So how we should teach augmentative communication based on how people naturally learn language is by modeling. The more we model using their device, the more they'll be able to produce words on their device. The research also shows that the more we use augmentative communication with these students, the more they're able to communicate verbally. So we have to model. We have to know the device. We have to, be accountable for showing the student where the words are. And then when we talk to them, we have to be using their device too. We can't verbally talk to them and expect them to use this. Terry's been using an app called Proloquo Go, and he has been doing pretty well on it. We've come up to a couple stumbling blocks. He likes to stem on it a lot, and he has trouble actually having conversations because the way that it's organized is just difficult to navigate, especially if you're trying to model. But he has used it, and he's come a long way with requesting items and using sentence frames like "I want" statements. So it's been very helpful, but the family and I have talked, and we feel like he is ready for something new to help him progress in his communication skills.
He even knows how to add his own words, which we didn't teach him. He just watched us and figured out how to do it. What do you want to say, Terry?
C to wind up for bad.
So this isn't very functional what he's doing right now, but he can spell out words.
Proloquo Go is organized in a specific way. It's organized by categories, which can make it really hard to make a sentence because you have to go through each category to find the words that you want to say. So this is the core word vocabulary on Proloquo Go, which is the vocabulary board that you would really need to use if you wanted to teach more complex conversation skills. And the things that I noticed about it were that it's very difficult to find things because the buttons can be very small, especially if you're using an iPad mini or even an iPhone. And also, there's not a lot of teaching involved. There are easier boards that you can make, but there's not a step-by-step way of getting from the simpler boards to this very advanced board. The new device that we decided to use with Terry is called PODD, and it's an acronym, PODD, for Pragmatically Organized Dynamic Display. And pragmatics, that's just another way of saying why are we trying to communicate? And so it's organized into branches based on why we want to communicate. So if we are trying to ask a question, there is a specific icon that you can touch that says, I want to ask a question. And then when you turn the page to that board, there are a number of things that make sense if you were asking a question. So it acts more like predictive text. The other thing is that because it's a low-tech communication device, it's much harder for Terry to stim. And he's actually not supposed to stim with this at all because he's always supposed to have a communication partner that controls the book. Another great thing about Pod is that as the students learn the books, they get more advanced and more advanced and more advanced, and they get more and more words, and they're able to increase their vocabulary that they can speak, and it keeps the same format, so they don't get confused over the new books that they get. There's so much room for growth, and Pod has actually been around for over 20 years, and they have lots of data to show how effective it is with students. I learned about this from a workshop that I went to, and the presenter was Linda Burkhart, and she was amazing. And if you're interested in Pod, I would encourage you to go to their website and look into it. So something that Linda Burkhart brought up was that she had been working with students from when they were really young, and then she just got to know their families, she got to know them, and she would start going to see them like at birthday parties as they got older. And when they were around 20 years old, she went to a party and she saw a bunch of them all get together, and a lot of them had their augmentative communication devices there, but some of them didn't. And she said that she went up to one of them and asked one of them that didn't have their communication device, and she asked them why they didn't have it, and they said that they didn't realize they were going to be working today. That's why they didn't have it. So it was a really great way to illustrate the point that when people see communication as work, for example, when we make them say things on their communication devices and we, hand over hand, make them point to things, then they're less likely to be independent using it, and they're less likely to use it as a full functioning communication device. And the last thing that I need to touch on is that it's very important that the communication device that you use is accessible to the student no matter where they are. And with Pod, since it's a book and it can be pretty thick, they've come up with pretty inventive ways you can make straps for it. Right now, we are just working on the first couple pages for Terry because we don't want to overwhelm him or his family who's trying to learn it. But as it gets thicker, we'll be looking into how we can make straps for his mom to carry around, because at this point it's not important for him to carry it around. Like I said before, he's always going to have a communication partner there. So it's more important for mom to carry it around, or dad, or both, actually, as many people as possible, so that whoever he's around is right there and they can start modeling right away. We made multiple copies of this page and we put them all over Terry's house. So no matter where he is, whenever he pulls his mom, because he doesn't talk a lot, he usually pulls her to communicate, she can grab this and see what he wants and then show him, if it's something she can say on this page, show him she understands what he's saying by using this. But she is not trying to get him to use it. Kids learn by modeling, so no, we don't have to make them say everything. If we just show them every single time we say something, they'll start to pick it up, and because they're motivated to talk to us and communicate with us and be understood, they will come back to it. We'll use it with them, and then it becomes just a natural motivator.
You have a loose tooth. Are you thinking about something else? Good. Turn the page. Categories. Something's wrong. Let's see. There we go. teeth? Are your teeth bothering you? Do you have a loose tooth? What do you think? Blood? You have, is there blood in your teeth? Let me see. Say ah. Ah. Oh, maybe when the tooth comes out, there'll be some blood. Do you want more reading, or are you all done? More or all done? Turn the page.
Turn the page.
Oh, go back to page 1.
Turn the page.
Turn the page. Do you want to go to categories?
Okay.
7. What do you want to talk about? Lots of things to talk about. We could turn the page and say, my tooth is a body part. I'm going to go to page 6. Turn the page. Tooth. The tooth. Go back to 6A.
Teeth.
Yeah, that's right. Teeth. Your tooth is loose, huh?
Loose teeth.
Yeah. Can I see? Is it going to come out?
So just to recap everything that was talked about in the video, and some of this will be talked about also in the next video, but modeling is not telling a child what to say or making him or her say anything. This is communication, it's not work, so it's important for us to remember that we just need to model. And then you don't need to model it all right now. You can take time to gradually learn the system. Don't try to model every single word you would naturally speak. That would take too much time and it's not effective. Model the key words. Definitely expect the children to communicate, and we'll talk about wait time in our next video. But value all communication, even if it's pointing or gesturing, and just make sure that you respond to that communication by modeling on their communication device. And then make sure that the communication aid is always with them, and you have to think of ways to make sure that it's always accessible. Thank you for watching this video, and let me know if you have any questions.